Welcome to the Mental Health in Schools virtual learning series from the Virginia Department of Education's Office of Student Services. My name is Sarah Bazemore, and I'm the School Counseling Specialist and Student Assistance Systems Coordinator here at the Department of Ed. All of the virtual learning opportunities found within this series were hand-selected to support school leaders and school-based mental health practitioners as they prepare to respond to the mental health needs of their students. Presentations are organized into 4 strands: equity, recovery, virtual supports, and trauma. You are currently viewing a presentation from the virtual supports strand. Our presentation today is brought to us by Dr. Julia Taylor, and it's on virtual suggestions for large group counseling. Dr. Taylor is an assistant professor in the counselor education program at the University of Virginia. Prior to academia, Dr. Taylor worked as a middle and high school counselor for a decade. Her research, teaching, and service in academia is focused on improving mental health services in schools, along with strengthening university and school division partnerships to enhance school counseling practices. Dr. Taylor frequently provides professional development to state associations, school divisions, and schools related to girls' leadership development, mental health, and data-informed school counseling. She is currently chair of the board of directors for the Virginia School Counselor Association. And so I'm going to hand the conversation over to Dr. Taylor to kick us off, because I know that she is the main event. I don't want to spend any more time on that. There we go.
Thanks, Sarah. So hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I want to start off by saying Sarah and I are just going to have a conversation about what you could potentially be doing for large group counseling, but there's not a lot of best practice. We're in a pandemic. We have 2 pandemics right now, and a lot of school counselors are just doing the best they can with what they have. And what's available in one division in Virginia might not be at all available in another division. There is a giant equity gap right now with what students have available to them. And this isn't a perfect science at all. I put together just a list of suggestions, which will be uploaded for you to have in a handout format, and other resources for how you could incorporate this. But this is by no means an exhaustive list of what you could be doing. This is by no means, this is an ask that you, again, looking at what we just talked about in terms of student need, figure out your student need and respond to it, but then also put some measures in place if you are able to, that can provide just consistency within your comprehensive program as it moves to a virtual platform. And another goal of this too is, I think we're all in triage mode right now. We're all in crisis mode. We're trying to figure out what we can do. And I think it's really critical to think about, okay, what are some things that we could potentially keep in place that can be a standing part of our school counseling program that will increase the availability, that will decrease equity gaps, that we could potentially provide not only to students, but parents and teachers in the community, in a way of again, putting out some of your services in a large group format. So that's what I want to talk about. And thinking about, I want to categorize this into, getting started, what do you have to do first? Thinking about mental health and wellness, thinking about academics, thinking about college and career services, parents and guardians, and then looking at accessibility and then outreach. So that's kind of how I want to guide the discussion today. Do you have anything, Sarah?
No, I just want to remind everyone, and you said this beautifully in the presentation we just finished, on just make sure that whatever you are planning to do is aligning with your division's policy, and that you've got the approval of your principal and people are aware of what you're doing. I think that's just so essential right now. And if there isn't a division policy or any directive on telling you what you should be doing or what you're allowed to do or what platforms you're allowed to use, then help to develop that for your division, step up and, offer some suggestions, but that really needs to be in place before you take action.
100%. And thinking about with your division policies, it's not like the Julia Taylor or Sarah Bazemore policy. It has to be a school policy and a division policy that is written out. And I'm thinking specifically And with any sort of delivery services that we're offering right now, what if a student expresses suicidal ideation? What if a student expresses a threat towards another student? Thinking about, I mean, anything. What about child maltreatment? What if you see something on Zoom that is concerning to you? What do you do? And, oh, this is what I think we should do is not going to hold up in court. So it has to be in policy, and it's really critical that we continue to follow these policies. And again, as Sarah said, like BDOE's got some guidelines in place of how to begin this process, and also your school division, if you have a school counseling coordinator or somebody in charge of student services, check with them, make sure, again, just even like approved platforms that you're using, etc.
There are a lot out there, and they're free and easy to access, which is wonderful, but it's also dangerous because as school counselors and us wanting to take action, I worry that folks are going to jump into utilizing something without verifying to make sure that it is okay and it has been approved by their division. Because heaven forbid something happens and you're in that situation where you have to explain your actions. You want to make sure that you have that policy to back you up. So
definitely. And also thinking about parental and guardian consent for school counseling services. I know many divisions have this just embedded into their general consent forms for virtual schooling and virtual platforms, but making sure that if you're going to be talking about something that, again, could a student potentially, express at a deeper level a suicidal ideation or, again, a threat assessment. That can happen anytime. That can happen when you're doing a schedule change. So we can't obviously predict that, but informed consent is really important right now. We want parents and guardians to be aware of what their students are engaging in because of that reason. So
absolutely. And so just like you have in place, you have a procedure and a system in place in the school, in the brick and mortar setting for if there is a threat, you need to make sure that you have something in place for the virtual setting. And it could look very similar. But if it's that you call so-and-so's cell phone number, then that cell phone number is nearby all the time so that you don't have to disengage with the student to go and call that person. So you can keep that line of communication available. But it's great to think about the what ifs right now and to make sure that if those what ifs happen, we all hope they don't, but if they do, you're prepared and you're ready to respond to meet student need.
Yeah. And I think that's a good segue into like the what if. Do students know what services you're offering, what school counselors do in your school? And sometimes we think yes, and other times we're like, oh, I thought my school counselor only did this. Do they know you can provide mental health services? Do they know if they are feeling suicidal or depressed or are having a mental health crisis? Like who to reach out to during the school building? Do you have a disclaimer for these services as we just discussed? But also if they send you an email, do they have a bounce back message that says, hey, if you are in crisis, here are the community resources, here are the numbers that you can call? I think that's really critical when we're talking about mental health and large group counseling. So what I'm going to do, if it's okay, Sarah, to just segue again into some suggestions for mental health and wellness in a large group format, and then I'll move into the other domains and we'll wrap it up. So, and again, these not an exhaustive list, just a couple of things that I think are important that you can do. And from what I've heard from community members, from what we've done in schools long before the pandemic as a way to, again, reduce equity gaps and make services available to everybody. And then just some best practices in terms of accessibility. So live and versus recorded lessons. I think this is kind of where people are grappling with. And I know a lot of counselors are doing large group lessons in the mental health arena live, and then others are like recording snapshots of it. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do that, depending, again, what do your students need. But I think it would behoove everybody, before you spend hours and hours and hours putting together these recordings, test run a couple of them, put a bit.ly link or embed a Google Analytic link in there. Who's watching it? Are they watching the whole thing? Are they abandoning it after 7 minutes? As we said during the last presentation, can you get a focus group of students together to watch it and say, all right, what do you think? Did you watch the whole thing? Were you engaged with it? To give you some tips. Again, if you're going to spend countless hours putting together these videos. And then if you are talking about mental health and you're recording it, again, do students know that if it causes significant distress or any distress, how to get a hold of you? What can they do afterward? Because we don't know what's triggering a student at home right now. So that's where I tend to say, you know, some of these live sessions might be a little bit better, but again, that depends on you, and it depends on your service and your division, your student services outreach program, and your policies. And I think it's really cool too that right now we can offer some of this. I think there are some silver linings in what we're able to offer, and you can do an RSVP form, especially elementary and middle school counseling. Hey, we're going to be doing 15-minute coping tips every Tuesday and Thursday at noon for coping skills or mental health hygiene or stress management, et cetera, you name it. And let parents RSVP, and you've got their emails. You can send a reminder. We'll talk more about social media and outreach later, but you can design lessons around awareness themes or weeks. I know ASCA has an awesome calendar about, you know, different months and different, again, awareness weeks, awareness days. Every day is something, an appreciation day, or mental health awareness month, or depression awareness week, intimate partner violence awareness. So if we continue this, you know, into the fall and into the spring, can you design some lessons around that you're reaching students and letting them know that it's okay to talk about this, it's okay to reach out for help, and it's okay to struggle with it, essentially. So
September is Suicide Awareness Month, so it's a perfect opportunity to do some awareness and some addressing of those needs during that time. And one thing I'll say is, you know, as you're developing, if you're doing a live lesson or if you're doing one where you're recording it, making it live within the panel or whatever the platform is that the students are using is so essential, just to streamline the accessibility issue of it, and just making sure that they can quickly get to that recording within their school day. They don't have to go into something else and to get to it, I think is really, if you're worried about traffic and people actually finding it, making it live within the Canvas setting or whatever platform your students are using is a really great way to make sure that kids are finding it and they know where to go. Yeah,
absolutely. And then going into classrooms, you know, getting some classroom time, particularly in elementary and middle school. Going to those, talking about it, letting students know that these videos are there. But again, I think it's really critical, particularly when you're talking about mental health and wellness, that they know how to get a hold of you if they need you.
Yeah.
Checking your division policy, disclaimers, and ensuring legal and ethical issues are taken care of. And ASCA also did I think they did 2 sessions. Yeah, they did a part 1 and part 2 of ethics in virtual school, which we'll put in the resources that you can watch. And you know, just make sure you're covering your tracks with that, because the stakes are really high right now and a lot of students are struggling. So
yeah.
So again, there's lots of ways that you can do that and reach out and again continue your comprehensive school counseling services in a virtual setting. But and especially with the RSVPs and being able to get a hold of them and knowing what students want and what they're listening to, what they're engaging in, and thinking about their need. So moving on to some academic thoughts, ideas. I think this is a fortuitous opportunity to start doing some large group and grade level specific advising. In particular, figuring out, you know, advising takes so long sometimes, particularly in a high school, particularly in a large high school. And I think you can start offering some of these sessions virtually and answering questions. If you've worked in a high school for more than 3 months, you kind of already get the specific questions that students typically ask, like the frequently asked questions, but answering them in a format that might save you some time when we hopefully resume back to in-person learning. That might be a way to just have a FAQ somewhere that you record. I'm a big fan of virtual fairs and thinking about, you know, what can you do virtually? Because at the high school I used to work at, we did an AP fair where students could come and they could visit, and the AP instructors did just brief presentations, and typically parents came to that, and it wasn't well attended by students, but then we still would get the follow-up questions from them. But this is a great opportunity to maybe do like Sarah and I are doing right now, like a Q&A with an AP teacher, an IB teacher, particularly around registration time. So, hey everybody, like here's our YouTube channel full of our, you know, Q&As with our AP teachers, so they can click on that. They can do that in school, they can do that at home, depending on their level of internet connection. And again, saves you some time from having to explain what all of these questions are. And then sometimes they see something, they see a really cool teacher, they're like, oh, I didn't know they did that in there. That might enhance some want to desire to be enrolled in those courses. Same thing with elective fairs, and this can be done in middle school too, and I think that will be a great way. I know 4th and 5th graders, when they're transitioning, or 6th graders, it's different across the state, and when students go to middle school, they always want to know about electives and what electives can they take. So if the 6th grade team or 5th grade, 4th grade, whatever, is that next level up, can do an elective fair, and same with high school. And put these online. I think that's just, again, a really cool opportunity right now to do some recordings of that. Same with clubs, particularly middle and high school too. Sports, like what's here, and how do students know? And then community resource fairs too. What community resources are available for parents, for students, etc. So. And then lastly, for academics, I think right now, morning meetings, goal setting, we have a lot of buddies that haven't signed on to virtual learning, or might be really struggling for a variety of reasons, with engagement, with internet connection, etc., with getting work done at home for a variety of reasons. Again, I think the equity gaps are really big, and I don't know the answer. I don't think anybody has an answer for that. Right now, it's pretty upsetting, but if you know that you've got a group of students that are struggling, or just want to say, all right, every morning it's at 8:10, we're going to do a virtual like morning meeting. Here's the link for 9th grade. Here's the link for 10th grade. You know, spread it out in middle school, elementary school too. All right, what are your goals for today? Like, let's write down our goals, like 3 goals for today. What's our to-do list? How are we going to stay focused, etc. And you could do a follow-up at the end. Did you meet your goals with a Google form? It doesn't have to be a meeting at the end of the day, or you could do a meeting at the end of the day. But I think this, there's a way that you can reach students, particularly students that might not reach out to you in the way of some goal setting in the morning. So college and career, there is no shortage right now of college information available on the World Wide Web and on the internet. So thinking about that in terms of college tours, how you're enhancing just this culture of awareness about post-secondary options for students, beginning in elementary school, middle, or high school. I could go on and on about this, but I know school counselors are pretty well versed in this topic and the resources available to them. But I have seen so much in terms of universities putting tours online, admissions questions on, like everything is online now. So take advantage of that. Put together resources for students. Don't overwhelm them. Pick you know where your students are going to schools. You know what the SAT, SATs are not off or not being taken in a lot of schools right now, so that's pretty awesome. But also check with that too, because some of them you need for financial or for scholarships. But anyhow, I digress. For careers, doing a virtual career fair, I have a friend who, when her school went offline last year, was like, all right, everybody, send me a video of what you do and why it's cool, and put together a virtual career fair. And we used to do at the school I used to work at, we had a program called Career Connections, which I loved. And again, I think this is an awesome opportunity to be able to do this online. We did a needs assessment of what career students were interested in. And then we pulled all those together. We chose 9 broad topics, and we got somebody from each profession that had a high school diploma or a certificate after high school, a bachelor's degree, and then a advanced degree. So we showed students what careers that you could have with a variety of educational attainment under there. So that was really cool, really successful. Students in the high school got internships sometimes because they would want to go shadow people. It was just an awesome way to connect students to the reality of the workforce, and again, expose them to different levels of careers within a cluster. I know a colleague just told me yesterday that they are doing career cafes with the Virginia clusters, career clusters. So they're offering that as well. So that's a great idea. And then doing interviews with former graduates or former students, like your fifth graders that went to middle school, your middle schoolers that are now in high school, and your high school students that are in college or at working in a career. I think having like, all right, what are you all up to? Having some interviews with them, particularly around those transitions. I'm thinking elementary to middle school transition, so tough right now, not having that face-to-face or not being able to go to middle school. So having some heads up will be great. Working with parents and guardians, again, realizing and recognizing that there are some large equity gaps right now in what parents are and are not able to do. So just want to disclaimer that, but having coffee chats with parents, lunch and learn sessions, and then back to school night. I'm sure schools are doing this virtually, but maybe could you make that a staple? You know, single parents can't be in two places at once, and in all the different places parents can't sometimes come to back to school night at all for a variety of reasons. So making that more accessible, I think this is a silver lining in that as well. And then wrapping up, do you have anything to add, Sarah? Those?
No, sounds great.
Wrapping it up in terms of accessibility, I think this is a great time too to do a website audit. If I go to your website, can I figure out, one, who you are, two, what you do, and do you have like a visible updated calendar? So if you offer any of these services online, do I know how to sign up for them? Do I know how to contact you about them? Do I know that they're happening? Because I think that's critical right now. And some people have direct access to their websites. I know some people have to go through 45 channels to make like one simple edit to their website, which is problematic. But being able to change your website right now, I think is, or go in there and make it, again, accessible to all parents, students, colleagues, etc. What are you doing? I should be able to go to your website and figure out entirely what your virtual school counseling policies platform, what you're doing is right now. Also, can I figure out how to contact you? Do I know, do you have to, it irritates me sometimes when I click on an email and it like pops up this like Outlook thing, like, can I see your email or can I right click on it and send you a message without going through channels? What if a parent's in distress? What if a student's in distress? How do they quickly get a hold of you without going through, again, a lot of different channels? I think, I can't really cite the research on it, but I think with websites, it's 3 clicks. You should be able to get what you want in 3 clicks for accessibility purposes, but don't quote me on that. I need a fact check for that one. But yeah, if I leave a message, are you going to call me back within 24 hours? Or do you say on your message how quickly you're going to call me back right now? Do you have virtual office hours? Do you have an extension? So if you call, or if I call you and leave a message and you call me back and I don't get it, do I have to call the main office and talk to somebody who's going to send me to another extension of somebody who might not answer the phone and might not be able to transfer me back? Because that's too much. So do I know how to directly contact you?
And I would say too, Julia, to speak to that, and this is an idea that literally just surfaced in my mind hearing you speak to that phone call piece. So often parents will call the main office to reach anyway. So making sure that whoever is in the front office, if that parent is in distress when they call, they have a way of getting in touch with you that might be quicker than an email, and that they know if a parent calls and they're in distress and they're saying this or that, I need you to, this is my phone number for you to call me and let me know. And then making sure that you have the number programmed in your phone so you know to answer. It sounds silly, but those are the ways that systems and things can fall, and we want to make sure that we're thinking about all of those things, because I think our communication pathways have to be really well defined and really clear of barriers in this situation. So just thinking about all those little ways and all those things that could go wrong, and trying to be proactive in addressing them is so important.
Absolutely. Particularly,
I hadn't thought about the phone call about the front office. That was,
yeah, no, for sure. And this is a time too where things that we thought might have been going really well, you're like, oh, they can't find this out, or, oh, it takes a long time to get a hold of me. I think it's pretty normal from what I'm hearing, but again, that website I should know what I could potentially as a student sign up for, or what my school counselor is offering right now, these arenas. So, so thinking again about your accessibility, good time to do a website audit. What do you all need, and who's the best person to tackle that? Interns are good at tackling that too, if you have one. But it's a non-counseling service, but they'll still get some hours. So outreach and delivery. I love Remind. So I think this is such an awesome, I keep saying that, 20 have some tick marks, a good opportunity to have parents sign up for Remind, students sign up for Remind, classrooms, students, anybody that, it can be via email and text, I believe, but they'll send you don't have to use your cell phone number, but you can have groups sign up for this. And so if you are going to do a large group lesson, or you're going to say, all right, every day at noon this week, we're going to be doing 15-minute mindfulness sessions with so-and-so, send that Remind message out with a link. Social media, that's where everybody is. So are you on social media? Is your social media active? And then newsletter services. Sarah Bazemore has a great newsletter, so that's a good template to follow. But just again, resources, what you all do, just getting information to parents to let them know what you're up to, what you're offering to students, again, in a large group format, I think is really critical.
Yeah, and thinking about too, as a parent, one thing I really appreciated was that the counselor at my daughter's school would link all of her information into the email that I was getting from the teacher. So I didn't have this influx of emails. I was reading, the message from her teacher, and then it was a message from the school counselor as well, embedded in there on what opportunities there were. So I think that from a parent perspective, that's really helpful. As a working mom, trying to manage my own personal email as well as my work email, having it be all in one place was so nice. So I highly recommend that.
Definitely. And lastly, just, keep it simple, equitable, and accessible for everything we just talked about. And I think, again, school counselors are doing the best they can with what they have right now. So keep that up. This is a challenging time that I think everybody's just scrambling for answers and in crisis mode, and has a hat and a fire hose ready to extinguish. And this is a time where we can also put some preventative services in place. And again, thinking about what can you do right now that will last, that you can potentially weave into your comprehensive program in a way that improves equity, improves accessibility, and is more simple. And I see a lot of people spinning their wheels right now. And it's like, do I actually really need to do that? I mean, even in higher ed, for me, and all the resources that are available to me in terms of synchronous and asynchronous learning, I'm like, okay, what do I need? What do my students need? How do I keep it in a way that's manageable? Has been really helpful. So, because there's so much out there. I'm on resource overload. I don't know about you, but Sarah.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue right now. And I know my own personality too, in the fact that I want to do it all. And so,
this, look at this. You see this? How many texts that we sent back and forth with resources?
I think that our hearts are all aching for our students. And so as a result, we're just so quick to act right now, and we want to just do so much. And what happens when we do that is that we are doing a lot of things, but we're not doing them well. And so I think what Julia just said is so important, is that we're not overwhelming ourselves. We are doing targeted things that we know our students need. And, it's okay. Maybe the counselor down the road is doing this amazing lesson on whatever it might be, but you're not. And that's okay, because you're doing what, the need for your students. So just be very selective right now on what you do and how you spend your energy, because I can sympathize in the fact that I know that I would certainly struggle with wanting to do so much during this time. So I'm glad that we're speaking to that. And I think the number one priority right now is just making sure my students know who I am. I'm accessible to them if they need me. And, just popping in whenever you have that opportunity is so vital. And just making sure that they recognize your face and they know how to get in touch with you right there is a big deal. And, socially distant doesn't mean that we can't have connections with students. So keeping that in mind as well.
Yes. All right.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to add to that, Dr. Taylor?
No, I think that was a really great ending. I think I just do want to say thank you all for the hard work that you're doing. And thank you for the services that you're providing to students. And I wish you the best during this year. And I think students are going to need you more than ever. So practice self-care, whatever that means to you, and do the best you can with what you have, and keep moving forward. And that's all we can do right now. So thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. And I just want to remind everyone to check out the one-pager and the discussion questions that accompany this session, just to take this one step further and really implement some of the things that you heard today. So take care, and thanks again.